Hi, I'm Emma Farrell,
Hi, I'm Nathalie Mairena.
and today we're going through a list called the 20 most popular video games of all time. It was published by gamedesigning.org, and we're going to go through them and talk about what we think made them influential and popular.
All the games that they have listed here were taken and done by polls that they did, and talking to different gamers about what it is that made a game popular and why they found that these particular games were super popular.
Yeah, absolutely. Alright, so we're going to skip around the list a little bit on the ones that we found were popular for us or really influential for us personally. So we're going to start with Tetris at number 19. I personally think this should be a little bit higher on the list because Tetris has just changed the whole game, and you will always see new releases of Tetris being made and people will buy it.
No, I agree. I was thinking about it, I was reading about it. First, it had a really interesting origin. It was made to test machines in Soviet Russia.
Oh my god. Wait, do you know what year?
It was in 1980, and then it was in 1985 when it snuck out of Russia, and by 1989 it was a huge game in the Game Boy franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so too. I thought it would be a little bit more popular, just considering it's so simple. It's really a never-ending game,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what makes it so popular. So
Yeah, I think that's what can make it iconic and timeless, is that you could play it 1,000,001 times and there's always going to be a different outcome.
yeah, exactly. So I would have thought it was a little bit more popular, but I guess that's the first thing on everyone's mind who's playing video games.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, and then number 17, Sonic the Hedgehog.
We all know Sonic.
Yes, I personally didn't play this one as much,
Mm-hmm.
but it was definitely a fun time. I don't have that much to say. I mean, I guess it's still very relevant too because they're making that movie that everyone's talking about.
That movie.
And people got really offended by how they originally made him look. So I guess that really does show how popular he is, because if so many people, I mean, almost 30 years later, can hold on to that and be like, no, it has to be redone, to keep the essence of him, then it shows he's still a lovable character.
It's funny, I was reading the comments under the trailer and people were like, they got his iconic shoes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
shoes, okay. And I was reading up on it, and apparently what made it so different was it was the only thing competing against Mario at the time, and also, unlike Mario, it focused on speed. So you were actually that was really unheard of at the time. There was no really level focus on speed in Mario. So it's still going strong. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm pretty sure they still make
oh yeah, definitely
new reboots of it in ways. So
I have heard people being oh, it's kind of fallen off the tracks in terms of the games, but a classic is still a classic. The first Sonic the Hedgehog was still huge.
yeah, I definitely don't think it's kind of outlasted Mario. Mario has definitely had a more successful career.
I agree.
Hence why it's higher up on the list.
Yeah.
But
I don't think there's any Mario games that people really dislike, but I know there's
Exactly.
Sonic games people really
do
dislike.
not like, for sure. Okay, and then number 16 is The Sims. One of my personal favorite games of all time. The franchise is iconic. I have nothing wrong to say about it. I think it just really plays with taking control of life, and that's something that's really unique compared to a lot of the games on this list, is that you really could do anything and everything, and there's no you can kind of determine the consequences as well. There's no predetermined, if you do this something bad will happen, or you lose, because you don't lose, it's life.
I have a bone to pick with EA about Sims 4.
Okay, I definitely can agree with that.
Because they definitely have taken an odd turn in limiting a lot of the things you used to be able to do. But I agree with you 100% on all the other points about it's unlike any of the other games on the list, I think. No other game has simulation in the Sims.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of funny because I mean, there has been a few games that have come out to compete with Sims, Second Life, but nothing has been able to even come close to the amount of success that Sims has.
I agree. Yeah, I can't really even think of another game that is like The Sims. And it's funny how a lot of like RPGs have taken on like that Sims quality of like, oh, you can customize your character and like do all these things. So I don't know if that's where it came from, but it's definitely like.
I think it's definitely influenced gaming. I think even Wii, because like how like Wii Sports, you could make your own character.
That's
I think
true.
that could totally come from the Sims kind of element of like your life and becoming who you want to be.
Yeah, I agree.
And then number 13 is Super Smash Brothers. Definitely also a childhood favorite of mine. I remember beating all of my friends every single time I played. And I think what makes this one really unique also on the list is that it takes characters that you all love and know from different games and morphs it into one, and everyone likes fighting video games. It's definitely like something you could just pull out like hanging out with people.
Yeah.
And like everyone will like it because it doesn't really have much of a story mode.
Yeah.
So I love Super Smash Brothers. I just think I like that they did that one instead of Melee too, because it definitely elevated itself.
I've never played Super Smash Bros. A lot, but it's cool seeing all these different characters from all these different companies actually coming together and like work. Like you can get to fight them and like see them in the same place. So I agree. It's you don't really have anything else like that.
Exactly.
I don't even know how you could like emulate something like that either.
Totally. It has definitely become iconic, and I think people still cherish it and love it. And I just think it's one of those games that people will always gravitate towards because it really, like, any character, you can always find one that you like. You know what I mean? And one that you relate with and one that you've played their game. So it just really is iconic. It brings all the most iconic games together into one. Number 5 on our list, Skyrim. That's something I played and loved. I mean, it's something you kind of only play on your own because it doesn't have like a multiplayer aspect. But I remember me and my family would all get around and like try to control like our one player and be like, no, get on that horse, or no, become a vampire. And it has such a massive world and map and layout to it that it is never ending as well. Like you are always building up your character and going on different quests. Like I don't think it's actually possible to finish all the quests. Like it's just insane. And it kind of also brings in that aspect of like, who do you want to become? But in a medieval sense, which is really cool.
Yeah, I agree, yeah. It's like Sims, but medieval.
Exactly, but like in more fantasy driven as well. And Skyrim is honestly, number 5, I think that's well deserved for sure, because no other game really has come out like it since. I know it's like a more like recent game, like I think it's like around 2012. But it has just dominated the gaming industry for sure, and I know people still play it and still love it. The graphics have held up beautifully. I think it's really amazing, and I think it definitely deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, I think it definitely, the huge map aspect you were talking about, definitely like it contributed that to the world of RPGs, because I think once Skyrim came out with this huge world, like now you're seeing it in a bunch of games like Legend of Zelda, which used to not be an Explore game.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it has like a huge map, and like I agree, like Skyrim definitely changed the game, and I really love that game too.
It's so good. It's amazing. It's incredible for sure.
It was so much fun to like start a new character that sometimes like I would forget to continue a storyline with the other characters.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's like you want to make a werewolf or like someone, like you really want to be able to have like a interesting life for that person. And sometimes, yes, you do get carried away wanting to make new people because you want to just like explore a different outlook on what that life could be like. And then number 1 on the list is Minecraft. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this, but Minecraft is definitely made itself iconic in the past 10 years. But also something I've noticed is that it was really popular at one point and it kind of died off. And now that it's the 10-year anniversary, it's kind of exploded again. So that's why I don't know if it really deserves to be number 1 most popular. Maybe most popular at the moment, but definitely not of all time for me. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's interesting that, like, seeing it as number 1, I started thinking about Fortnite. It's interesting it's not on the list. Maybe the list is a little bit older. But thinking about, because people tend to say, like, oh, Fortnite is the most popular game now.
Yeah, for sure.
Thinking about how different Fortnite is from Minecraft.
Yeah, definitely polar opposites.
It's kind of interesting to think about. It was definitely a first for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that definitely could have brought in a threshold for a new generation of gamers.
It's interesting. It brings in a lot of aspects of a couple of the games. Like it has that geometry of like Tetris mixed in with that open world of Skyrim.
Yeah, for sure.
Mixed in with like the survival and first person.
Yeah, Counter-Strike. I mean, I guess that's a really good point. But I don't know, something about it. I don't know if it necessarily deserves to be number one. That's a little high. I think it definitely could have been replaced with something like, maybe Sims could have been number one. Maybe that's a personal bias.
I think a part of it is a nostalgia factor, especially in recent years. Like people can remember playing Skyrim in like middle school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it.
I guess that's true. And also with Minecraft. I think it really showed you don't need good graphics to be a popular game. And also it started out indie, and so I think that it's definitely influenced a lot of different people to make games, and like definitely has made you feel like you're not as limited, like to have such a big like AAA team behind a game to make it really popular. So I definitely think it's a pioneer in those kind of aspects, but number one is a little pushing it.
I think going into that, what is it that makes a game popular?
I think this is a very interesting question because we've pointed out a lot of different aspects from these games. I don't think there's one formula to make a game popular, but I definitely think not limiting your player will definitely always keep the game fresh.
Definitely. I think it depends a lot on the game you're trying to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you doing RPG? Are you doing first shooter? But I think we've seen that a lot of aspects can like cross over. Like that huge open world aspect, the customization aspect. I feel like people like the option of being able to go wherever they want, do whatever they want.
Yeah, for sure.
But they want the leveling too.
Exactly. Like you want to feel like you're playing it for a reason. And I think that's kind of going back to Tetris, like if they didn't have like a score-keeping quality to it, then no one would want to play because you wouldn't want to be constantly trying to beat yourself. I think that's also what can make a game popular, is always striving to do better than you played last time.
Yeah. And I think if Tetris was any more complicated than what it is,
no one would like it.
No one would like it because it'd be like you're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Exactly.
But because it's so like monotonous and like, oh, I can just do it.
It's easy going.
Exactly. I think part of it also is like you need something like an iconography that'll stand out.
Yeah.
Because I think out of all the games we've seen, part of what makes them so popular is that they have something that you can look at and be like, oh, I know where that's from.
Exactly. Like Angry Birds is on this list, which I think definitely deserves to be on the list because you see one of those birds and you know it's Angry Birds. And I think what also could be a really good aspect of making a game popular is multiplayer, because I know there's so many times where I play Sims and I'm just next to my friends and they're playing Sims and I'm like, man, I wish we could play together. And I think like Minecraft, it's number one, and there's definitely like you can go in different servers and play with a bunch of different people. And I think that can also, and Counter-Strike's number two, and that's like a tournament, and number three is World of Warcraft, and I think that definitely shows that people like to play with other people, not always be constricted to a story mode, but I don't think that a game should rely on being multiplayer.
Like it should be like an added aspect to
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
A bonus, for sure.
I think that would benefit games like Skyrim, because I think part of what makes Skyrim so popular and what brought it to this list is that it was so different, it was so big, it was so like, that makes it so, and you have so many things you can do. But I think sometimes if you've played it for a while and you don't have anyone to play with,
exactly,
it gets kind of lonely. It's a really big world. And,
for sure. And you kind of want to explore it with your friends.
Exactly. It's not as directioned as like say like Breath of the Wild, Zelda, you know.
Totally.
So you kind of want to have somebody to play with. So I agree with you there.
Absolutely. All right. I think that kind of sums everything up.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I I think it's really tricky to try and pin down what'll be popular in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think a lot of what makes these games so well liked is that they brought something completely new.
Yeah, they're totally unique in their own way. Like, none of these feel like a repetition of the last. But it will definitely be interesting to see what's going to be new and popular, and how this list might change in the next decade.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Bye.
Bye.